10 seconds or I'll have no other choice but to destroy the baby.
Guys, I'm joking. I'll find a loving home for him. He'll just never know where he came from.
John.
What is that?
That is mine.
Welcome to another episode of Watching Watchmen. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jimbob.
And we are one drink in.
And
Nice.
this is Watching Watchmen.
This is Watching Watchmen.
Just a sip.
So, wow, what an episode.
Yeah, that was definitely a crazy one. Lots of weird stuff.
Episode 4. If you don't like my story, write your own.
Maybe I will. You know what?
I'm going to go on record. Jimmy and I are going to write our own Watchmen.
Write our own Watchmen. It'll be better.
Probably not better, but it'll be different.
It'll probably be just as weird.
It'll be way out there. Just as many fetuses that you put in a microwave. So the official teaser for it, reclusive trillionaire Lady True finally enters the stage with a mysterious offer.
Lady True.
With Blake getting closer to the truth of her cover-up, Angela enlists Looking Glass for help. The Lord trains 2 new servants.
That's one way to put it.
The Lord
way to understate.
Oh my.
Yeah. So how do we unpack this?
How do we? Where to begin?
We got this Smallville scenario. Hearkening back to in the first episode, we had all these Superman vibes, right, with Will Reeves escaping Tulsa and the massacre and all that. Kind of reinforced that a little bit.
Totally.
This one with this kind of Smallville situation.
Yeah.
But like a Smallville sitcom intro, it felt like.
And if the Clark Farms wasn't enough, then we end with the meteor or whatever coming from
something
space.
Falling from space. Probably a child. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that was one of the Mr. Phillipses that had been launched via catapult.
That is possible. We don't have a time frame for this, do we? We don't know if this is years before.
We know that it's 1 year after Lady True moved to Tulsa, because she mentions having been there for 1 year or whatever.
And she moved. Sure, I think she came into play after Adrian had already disappeared. And that was 7 years ago. So I'm going to guess.
But we don't know if she'd been in Tulsa that whole time that she had his company.
Point. We have no idea. We're just speculating at this point, which
I don't
is kind
know
of what
anything.
we do on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not sure when she came to town, but so we get this farm selling some eggs, and we get this adorable little...
And a little pressure sales tactic complete with a 3-minute hourglass.
Well, yeah, that once Lady True shows up, it becomes less adorable.
Oh, yeah. We see tons of egg imagery again.
A lot of egg imagery this episode.
This episode's all about eggs.
Yeah. A whole mess of eggs.
Makes me hungry.
We should just start saying egg.
I just want to go all Ron Swanson on some
You like some
breakfast
eggs?
food. Yeah, who doesn't like eggs?
How many eggs do you eat when you have eggs? 2? Are you a 3 egg kind of guy?
I never really thought about it. I don't know how many. It's hard for me to quantify how many eggs wind up in my scrambled eggs.
Who's making it, you or someone else?
One of my servants, obviously.
Sure.
Mr. Phillips.
Crookshanks. Yeah. I think standard is probably 2 eggs.
Is it?
I feel like when you go to
you go to
Denny's, you get the Grand Slam.
What about the Cracker Barrel?
I think it's probably 2. Okay. And I know that because I usually get fried over easy. And then you can tell exactly how many eggs. I get
scrambled.
That's where you went wrong.
Yeah. Well, I like scrambled.
Welcome to Watching Scrambled Eggs. We go in depth about how we like our eggs and how many. Listeners at home, how many eggs do you like when you cook eggs for yourself or have your servants prepare them?
Tell us in the comments or in feedback.
Scrambled, medium, over easy,
Benedict?
Over hard?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
What's that one? The poached. Ooh, poached.
Deviled.
Deviled. Okay, back on track. So we get this adorable family living on a farm trying to sell their eggs. And you see that they're just a cute little couple. They enjoy
They're clumsy.
puzzles. Yeah, she drops eggs and
Van
you think
Gogh puzzles.
we look over and the husband just gives her a little smile.
Yeah.
I assume husband. We don't. I don't know. Whatever.
Does it seem to be an age disparity to you? I get the feeling he looked a little older than she was. Not that really matters or anything, but
That's the real crux of the story. We don't know. That's the big question.
maybe it was his fault they couldn't have kids. Lady True said it was her eggs that weren't viable.
We don't know.
But then she did manage to produce a baby, so.
Well, she also, what did she say? She got her trillions from bioengineering and genetics or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she could create a human.
I mean, Ozymandias was into all that same stuff.
That's interesting.
She might have, just kind of inherited a lot of that research from him when she bought all his.
Yeah.
His
The line
cool
between
toys.
Ozymandias and Lady True is a little thin.
Both fond of vivariums.
They love their vivariums.
Vivaria?
I need to get me one of those.
Yeah. I don't know what
Maybe less
region.
humid.
What region would you make your vivarium?
I would make it adjustable. I'd be able to set my region on command, right?
But that you'd have to change like all the life forms inside it, so.
Sure, details. I'm a trillionaire in this scenario.
This is a good point.
I'd also have a whole slew of babastas.
Set the vivarium to upstate New York.
There
please.
you go. Whatever I feel like. I'd be eating Italian food that night. I would switch it to Sicily, Florence, whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Never need to leave my house again. I get to travel.
You already don't leave your house.
It would make it even better to stay at home, though. I bring Vietnam to me.
Vietnamese food, by the way, is top notch.
Very good.
I love Vietnamese food.
Oh, who doesn't? I don't know. Somebody probably doesn't.
Everybody listening, go get some Vietnamese food.
Do you think somebody who grew up with great Vietnamese food is just so sick of Vietnamese food that he doesn't want it anymore? He's like, Vietnamese food again. I'm so sick of this.
I don't know, man. I mean, they've been eating it for forever, and I mean, it's just damn good.
It is good. I love a good brothy meal. I specifically, I guess, I like the pho, which is pho, not pho. I learned that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get back on track right after this. There was a Vietnamese place called What the Pho.
Oh, nice.
How great is that?
I've seen like license plates that say like Pho King.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Very subtle.
So anyway, Vietnamese, Lady True is Vietnamese.
That's true.
We're all still kind of on topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too derailed.
Angela's kind of Vietnamese.
Kind of. She grew up there. Man, we're going to get off topic again, but
that's fine.
It's
a podcast.
She mentions that her and Cal met in Saigon, right?
Yeah.
But
and that Cal had an accident.
There was an accident, but I thought she was young in Saigon, and I thought she moved.
We don't know how long she lived there.
We don't know how long she lived there, so she could have been there a lot longer than I thought. I had the impression that she was a kid and then moved over here young.
Now, what a small world that she winds up back in Tulsa, where Will Reeves is from, which is apparently her family.
Right. That is interesting. How did she end up there? Perhaps it was no accident. Perhaps there was some guiding.
Perhaps
there?
It was a thermodynamic miracle. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's exactly what I was suggesting.
Oh, damn.
There's a lot of thermodynamic miracles going on here.
You think Cal is Dr. Manhattan?
It's possible.
Launch headfirst into that theory.
Lori does have a boner for Dr. Manhattan and Cal.
That's true. She brought him up
numerous times.
Yeah,
it's
again
becoming
in this
a little
episode.
concerning right now. Yeah. So Lady True shows up. We get this cute little farmer family, and they're going to bed, cuddled up nicely, kissed each other goodnight. She was the big spoon.
She's the big spoon.
It's interesting.
No, it's fine.
I mean, why not? Switch it up. Get a knock at the door. Lady True. We've all been there. We're cuddled up, ready to go to bed, and some trillionaire.
Another trillionaire
shows up.
Trying to buy our property in 3 minutes.
That's right.
With offer of a baby.
It's the Clark farm. Everybody wants it.
What did she give it, like $5 million?
She set the clock to like 3 minutes.
She said 3 minutes and then turned over.
And they're the most
hourglass.
important people in the world.
It's
right
almost
now.
like she knew that something was going to fall out of space right on that property that would then be hers.
I think it was just coincidence. Just so happens that the reason she wanted the farm. I mean, yeah, wow, bonus. Now she gets that whatever landed on the field.
What do you think it was?
Clark Kent? I think that's what we're getting at.
I think it was a cocoon made of Phillips's and Crookshanks containing Ozymandias.
Is it possible that this is the result of what got catapulted out of
it's possible.
Adrian Veidt's
anything's possible.
Realm.
After this episode, literally anything is possible.
We don't exactly. So Lady True pressures them. She says that you visited her clinic,
the fertility
clinic, and they said that the eggs weren't viable.
Yeah.
Either that was baloney.
You got bad eggs.
Or
Lady True's just way better
holding back. Yeah.
Or Lady True just gave him a random
baby. We did see some babies just growing in some water.
Although I think with all the free and available genetic testing available, that would come back to bite her. Like those people would find out that that's a random.
Well, hold on, Jimmy. He did say the baby has her eyes. So at the very least,
there's no disputing
she
that. She
got the eyes. Yeah. Really interesting. So pressure's on. They quickly decide that, yes, they'll sell the farm. They'll take $5 million and a baby.
Anything for a baby.
And you can have 40 acres of Clark Farms.
Yeah. All the eggs you can eat.
She didn't say eggs. She just said the acres. I don't think the chickens were part of the deal.
I guess that's technically true.
Shame on Lady True for not putting that
She didn't put a chicken clause in the contract.
Of course, we didn't even see the contract. They just signed blindly. Because they had very little time to decide.
Smart.
Because if they didn't, the baby was going to be disposed of.
You know what? I feel like Lady True was in the less powerful position in that particular instance. Because you she's pretty desperate to get this contract signed in 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
So obviously you wait 3 minutes when something falls from the sky. Lady True, do you want this thing? How's that baby and an extra, $16 million?
Probably why she made them decide before the clock ran out. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure she was going to slit the kid's throat right in front of him. That's the indication I got.
But see, that would be a poor tactic, though, because now then
she doesn't get what she wants.
Now they have her meteor. And they could offer it to her.
That's true. Yeah. I'm sure she had contingency plans.
Unless the meteor is also a child from Krypton.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
She's got contingency. She's a trillionaire. You don't get to trillionaire status if you don't know how to negotiate, right?
I guess.
So, we see something land from outer space into the farmland that she had just purchased. And she said, that's mine.
Yeah.
That's really all we got, right?
Yep. It's legally hers.
And then we get this transition to the center of town where the bakery is, right?
Yeah, really trippy transition.
So that kind of tells me that we're taking place in the past before some of this stuff was developed.
Well, no, because I don't think so. Because the place we transition to is the Greenwood neighborhood,
right?
And that wouldn't have been just farmland.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to. We're gonna watch it again. We'll get more in depth. I'm gonna dig in.
I don't need to watch it again. I got it.
All right, Jimmy's good, but I got to catch up because I'm just a dum-dum.
I read the comic book too, so
I've read it, guys. You've heard me say it. I read it.
You can say it all you want.
I have. I'm just gonna read it aloud.
That'll be one of our episodes. Is Joe reads Watchmen, the entirety of Watchmen and describes each panel in detail,
for at least the second, probably third time at this point.
Oh,
I've also watched the motion comic, which highly recommend.
Oh yeah, the motion comic is pretty good.
It's great.
The voiceover is a little.
That's the
wacky.
Only thing is that you got the same guy doing all the voices. I wish they would have just gone.
Yeah, I remember he's a little funny when he tries to do Lori.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it killed me. And that's anything else we want to talk about with that scene?
Oh man, so much.
There's a lot to unpack there. But I guess we'll leave it at that. We'll come back to it after we watch it a few times and we get you guys.
Absolutely. During our full episode, we might not mention it. Who knows?
Probably not. We're just going to talk about how we like our eggs and what quantities. Then we cut to Angela back at the bakery, and she's going in full on dispose of the evidence mode.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's going to work out too well for her. I mean, feels like she's making a lot of missteps already.
Yeah, she doesn't seem great at that.
No.
Covering up whatever she's covering up.
Especially since Lube Man spotted her disposing it.
That was so cool. She's got a lot of eggs in her bakery, not because it's a bakery where you'd expect to find eggs, but because she was holding Will Reeves hostage and he got eggs. So she had to clean that up. Wouldn't want anybody to find eggs in her bakery is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, it would be weird. The bakery's not open and she's just like in there alone cooking eggs.
She
like,
can't have eggs. Yeah.
Laurie Blake would be like,
Highly suspicious.
why are you making eggs?
And she's cutting up the wheelchair, sawing it apart, going to a whole lot of trouble, putting them in black duffel
Got
bags.
an angle grinder in there.
Yeah, it's intense. She's got all those things. You could bake a cake with that, probably.
It'd be an intense cake.
It's like putting the cake in the prison. You put the little saw in there.
Yeah. Bake a file into it.
Exactly.
Maybe that'll get Ozzy out of his whatever he's in.
Wherever that prison is.
His vivarium on Mars.
We've got the letter. She's got Will's letter.
That's right. And
she's holding it over the
accidentally
fire.
catches on fire.
Kind of heartbreaking to see that. There's so much history there.
Yeah.
Made it through World War I, World War II. Who knows what else in this alt history?
Yeah, but
the squid attacks, countless squid falls.
Yeah, has not a drop of squid on it.
But man, it couldn't survive 2 days in Angela's bakery. Gets distracted while she's holding it over the flame. She wasn't gonna burn it. I get the indication that she was changing her tune.
There was a second thought there.
She hesitated because
Then she got that call from the Greenwood Center for Cultural Center. Yeah,
calls her all the time now. She's got
Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Stop calling me list. Jeez.
Hello, Will.
Go in there once, they swab your DNA and they think they own you.
How awkward would it be if Laurie stops by the bakery and then he calls and says Will on the answering machine when she knows that William Reeves is the fingerprints that were identified in her stolen car?
I'm sure Angela would just look at her and say, huh, weird. And that's it.
It's probably a different Will.
Probably a different Will.
Yeah.
So she gets the call, confirms that she's got a new member of the family tree.
Yeah.
What was that about? Because that was the call addressed to Will?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the call was addressed to Will. I guess it was...
what's the new information here?
Well, I guess running the DNA that they had another ping in the records or something. And so it's or maybe it's just that she had that originally, but since she didn't do anything about it to check it out, it's like that follow-up thing. Like, hey, come on down to the cultural center and check out our exhibits on family trees and stuff.
Yeah, we've got Klansmen in robes that pop out in holograms just to freak you out.
Yeah, there was some freaky stuff going on with the holograms.
Nearly that scary when it was during the day, but at night when it's just you,
dude turns to her and puts his hands up.
What was that about? They all turn and face you like those ghosts at the Disney
World. Yeah.
She burns the letter on accident. She steps on it, but it doesn't look like much was salvaged. I don't think much of it survived, if any of it.
Did she leave it on the floor? I don't remember.
She kind of stomped it out, but it looked like it was still burning.
But does that mean it's evidence sitting on the floor now?
She's got evidence all over the place.
Angela.
Oh my gosh.
And then she goes and breaks into the cultural center.
Yeah, how about that?
Putting a call in first, in case there's an alarm. Very clever. But now, anybody who investigates is going to be like, Angela Abar's entire family tree is the last one that was registered on our...
the only thing they did.
On our hologram tree.
Right to the family tree for Angela Abar. That was a pretty interesting scene.
It was.
So,
I wish we had one of those at one of our museums.
An actual family tree?
Or a hologram.
Yeah.
Just any why don't we have holograms yet?
We're getting there. I'm pretty sure Michael Jackson's a hologram now.
Is Elon Musk working on that? We need that tech.
God. He's working on all sorts of stuff.
We need actual holograms. It's past time for that.
What if they already exist and we don't even know it?
Well,
what if I'm a hologram?
That
possible.
It's not.
Put a pin in that. So she goes and gets the family tree. They actually send out an acorn. Dispenses an acorn.
Yeah, totally what you'd expect at one of those cool museums where, stuff is symbolic but also sciencey.
But then all she does is takes that acorn and deposits it elsewhere, and she doesn't even get to keep the acorn.
Right, because it's for kids, It's hey, take it over here, and you get to see the cool thing happen.
That same acorn gets reused all the time.
Yeah,
totally.
It's you ever ridden the E.T. ride at Disney World, which is 50 years old now or something?
Not Disney World, that's Universal Studios.
Universal,
right?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But, at the beginning of the ride, you tell an attendant your name, and they give you this card for no reason that you immediately then hand back to them. And then at the end of the ride, E.T. says your name in a really terrible robotic voice.
Was he a hologram?
No, he was animatronic, but it was terrifying.
That is pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
Did he have the glowing finger when he said it?
There were other instances of the glowing finger on that ride. I don't know about in that particular spot. That's like at the very end.
Did you know that ET stands for extraterrestrial?
Whoa.
Did I just blow your mind?
It's all coming together.
I know. And how about Drew Barrymore being the little girl in that?
I did know that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, she drops the acorn into a tube. Her family tree. Mm-hmm. You think that one's now? I guess it's all kind of digital, so it's variable based on what acorn you drop in there, probably.
Yeah, like it probably just records it.
Sure,
it's like a USB thing or whatever.
So then we see this blue tree holographically come to life.
It's her family tree, apparently.
Right, and
it has a new branch that it invites her to explore, which has her grandfather, but there aren't a lot of records on her grandfather. Apparently the machine thinks that he was killed as a little kid in the Tulsa riots, along with her great-grandfather and grandmother.
But then they also have a record of Will Reeves as a police officer in the 40s and 50s.
The museum didn't.
Oh.
Lori
right,
did.
Okay. All right, I'm getting,
Yeah. So the kid, I don't think the tree knew the kid's name.
It said Will. I'm pretty sure it said Will.
Well, I think because she introduced herself as Will when she gave it the DNA.
Okay, so it's like filling in the blanks. Yeah, it was like 99.98% certain.
Not nearly certain enough.
Just the amount of uncertainty of the germs that remain in your mouth after using Listerine. Same number. So what else happened in that scene? She just basically determines Will is her relative, probably.
She learns where she comes from, and she kind of tells him to leave her the fuck alone.
Get the fuck out of my life.
Yeah.
Huh.
Indeed.
I don't know, Angela. I think you need to deal with these problems head on. Stop running away. What do I know?
Well, she doesn't have a lot of time to think about it because she hears a crash from outside. It's a crash that we as the audience heard last episode.
It did sound vaguely familiar. And then we hear some laughing.
Yes,
some laughter.
Really maniacal laughing.
Almost as if it's a comedian.
Angela rushes out to see none other than Special Agent Lori Blake laughing at her now totaled car.
Right. Surprised to find out that the car that fell from the sky belongs to Angela Abar, a.k.a. Sister Night, showing up in full costume. So now it's kind of hard to deny that you're Sister Night at that point.
Well, I don't think that there wasn't any denying it anyway.
There wasn't. She was denying it early on. I'm just a baker. But now I feel like,
that's for in front of her kids and stuff.
Right. So car falls from the sky. We get to see that. And great scene of her getting the spare key out from the tire wheel. Goes in the car and checks the glove box, and the pills are in there.
Yeah.
But
you think Lori noticed those pills?
I'm sure Lori noticed.
Lori's pretty sharp.
She's pretty sharp. Yeah.
Asks if anything was stolen, and she calls for a tow.
She does call for a tow.
Yeah.
And pretty early on, they send it out there.
So, Lori thinks this is pretty weird because, the next day, she's got all kinds of information on her car. They ran all the fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled up records of William Reeves, who's 100 years old and was a police officer in, what did she say, Washington, D.C. in the 50s?
I forgot. I just remember 40s and 50s.
Does that line up with Hooded Justice?
I'm going to say yes, but I'll have to research that
pretty
further.
Pretty close. Was he in D.C. or was he in New York? I don't know.
Do a deep dive. I mean, you're the one that's read it so thoroughly.
I've got the book literally right over here.
Yeah.
I could
just, everybody, hold on. We're going to take a few minutes.
I'm going to go grab it.
He's going to thumb through some pages, and I was kidding, but he's actually going to go. I'm just going to go podcast solo now. Jimmy's gone. We can talk about him.
You can't fly this ship without me.
Ah, damn it. So while you go look that up, that important fact.
All right. So Under the Hood by Hollis Mason talks about Hooded Justice.
So Angela, after she gets this, she had the interaction with Lori. Mm-hmm. And I guess really the only thing, you see the pills, and Lori's awfully suspicious, obviously. Coincidentally, it's Angela's car. I wonder if Lori still thinks that Dr. Manhattan is behind the car falling from the sky.
I don't know if she
Perhaps
ever
less
thought
so.
that was the case.
No?
I mean, she looks up at Mars and I think she starts laughing like it's all a joke.
Yeah.
But I don't think she ever really thought that Dr. Manhattan dropped the car.
All right.
I don't think Dr. Manhattan, she doesn't think that Dr. Manhattan gives a shit
She
about.
thinks that there's just some logical explanation for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps. All right,
mean,
what did you find out?
Nobody knows Dr. Manhattan better than she does anyway.
This is true.
I don't know. I'm just looking at that section from Under the Hood. It's
Rolf Mueller.
let's just keep talking because like
We can always
we'll talk
can
about
go
it
in
on
depth
our
in
full
our
episode
Yeah, right, exactly.
later this week.
So, anything else we want to talk about with the scene with her and Angela and Lori in the car falling?
Not really. I think that's
how
pretty
great
simple.
was Angela's voicemail for the bakery though. We let Saigons be Saigons.
Yeah.
I love a good pun like that.
Yeah,
That's just
Milk and
great.
Hanoi. She's on her word games.
She should have been the comedian. And then we see Angela come home and Cal's in bed with the two girls are in bed with Cal.
Yeah.
So Angela sleeps in the kids' room with Topher.
Topher's room, yeah.
And they have a interesting interaction there.
Yeah. Says something about how the girls didn't see the dude get shot in the head.
But Topher did.
Topher did.
Man, Topher's he's had a rough life, that Topher.
Yeah. But at the
then-
same time, he doesn't have it too bad. Like he's got adopted by good people. He's got a good house. He's not in like the foster care system.
Yeah, there's always a silver lining there.
Yeah. He lucked out in that regard. But yeah, he's definitely gonna be a superhero at some point.
Do you think so? This is a good origin story. Or villain.
Yeah,
I could totally see
I mean,
villain.
every superhero origin story could
go either way.
could just as easily be a villain story. That's
Wasn't it, I think it was one of those graphic novels with Joker, like The Killing Joke, where you're just one bad day
One
away
bad
from,
day,
Yeah,
yep.
one bad day.
That's The Killing
away.
Joke, yeah.
That's great. I
Uh-huh.
use that often.
another Alan Moore book.
There you go.
And Alan Moore, believe it or not, wrote Watchmen, the graphic novel.
Watchmen. Sounds familiar. I think I've read it.
So there's this fellow, Damon Lindelof, who's a big fan, made some fan fiction that's apparently on TV nowadays.
A remix, as he calls it, I believe. Has this little interaction with Topher, and he asks her if she was scared, and she says, yeah, when she saved the day by, pushing the coffin down in the bomb. And then he hands her his little stuffy. It was cute.
Yeah,
Little rabbit, purple rabbit looking thing.
maybe because he doesn't need it as badly as she does.
Yeah. And that's it. Angela goes to
Stuffy,
sleep
is
there.
that what you call it?
Yeah. What do you call it?
Stuffed animal?
What do you call the stuffed animal you sleep with?
I call it Yoda.
Cut to her visiting some sort of a bomb shelter. It looked like.
Yeah. So she, in the backyard of of one of the definitely smaller house than hers, but with a pretty sweet bomb shelter in the back. She finds none other than everyone's favorite paranoid detective, Looking Glass.
Looking Glass. Out of his mask.
Yeah. In just regular. Was there an American flag at that house? Was it like a regular one or like the circle one? I don't remember now. I feel like I remember seeing a flag, but I didn't notice which one it was. Which would be interesting if Looking Glass's flag was the old school, 7th Cavalry style.
That would be interesting. Might I suggest watching the episode again before our next podcast?
It'll come to me in my dreams.
Sure. What was interesting about that scene?
A lot. So like Angela is pretty trusting of Looking Glass for one. She goes to his bunker. She tells him to figure out what's in those pills that Will left her. And she wants it, off the books because, he brings up that the precinct has a lab, but she's like, well, you have a lab that's not at the precinct.
But it's his ex.
It's his ex.
Yeah.
But they're amicable. Who do you think his ex is?
That's a good question.
Panda?
Probably.
They wouldn't be amicable, though.
No, certainly not. Nobody likes Panda. Both wearing their masks all the time. Oh, my. And he's developing some photos that he took of the squid.
He likes to take photos of the squids after the squid fall.
Because they only last, 30 seconds?
Yeah, and they're dying the whole time.
He feels bad for him. The poor squids. They're just confused and
not unlike the servants of Ozymandias.
Very similar.
They're kind of dying the whole time, aren't they?
Slightly longer life than 30 seconds most of the time.
Aren't we all really just dying the whole time?
We are. Yeah, this is dark. Boy.
Watching Watchmen.
And when you die, you go back to nothingness.
Oh my God, that's right. There's a whole
Cal being just father of the year.
Yep,
Jesus Christ.
telling his kids that, heaven is made up. And
did we already see that? I guess we we already saw that scene, right? That was breakfast the next day, probably before seeing Looking Glass.
Yeah, I think so.
So
because Cal and Angela have a discussion about
what's going on.
Basically the whole timeline about with Lori and all that.
Yeah, and Topher and the girls are fighting. Topher's always causing trouble.
And Topher says that Judd's not in heaven, and Cal confirms he's not in heaven.
Because there is no heaven, kids.
And even if there was, he probably wouldn't be there because he had a Klansman robe in his closet.
That might be... I think heaven does have some rules against the Klansman robe.
Not to get all political or religious, but I have a feeling that most Klansmen don't get to go to heaven.
I mean, depending on your version of God, sure. It's all very...
Do they get their own heaven?
I will say that, in heaven, they do tend to wear white robes. You just take the mask off, and I think you pretty much... Boy, this is derailed. All right. Where were we before Jimmy got us
so we're
off topic?
Okay. Yeah. But you know what? I take us lovely places.
So,
Looking Glass's bunker. He's taking pictures of the things. She also gives him the Klansman robes. See, we're coming full circle.
There you go. It was all... Thank you.
She wants him to hold on to him because if she has them, Lori Blake will probably find out. And if Lori finds them in Looking Glass's secret bunker in Oklahoma, it probably won't. She'll probably be like, oh, yeah, Looking Glass's Klansman robes.
Just Looking Glass, yeah.
He's a white man in Oklahoma.
Oh, my God.
As he said himself about
quote,
Judd, yeah.
And then, so the pills and the robes and the squid pictures. I think that pretty much sums up the Looking Glass scene.
Yeah.
It was interesting. He wasn't wearing his mask, though. Mm-hmm. We see the other scene of him at home watching
I think that does say
American
something,
Hero Story, and he did have the mask on.
I think that was in the house. I think when he's in the bunker, he feels safe. Yeah.
Right.
Which is interesting.
So the bunker presumably is there to prevent, in the event of nuclear war, he'd survive down there. Also the vivarium. So we see two
this is true.
Locations that are
underground protected areas.
Yeah, safe zones to survive, bad scenarios. After the Looking Glass scene, then Angela goes to drop the rest of the evidence off into a trash train.
Yeah, she at a power plant. So apparently they take their trash to be recycled at a power plant. I don't know if they have like a Mr. Fusion there from Back to the Future that they just throw junk in there and get power. But yeah, some awkward dude spots her and she turns around and there's a guy in spandex just standing there.
The slippery bandit.
And they have a chase. It looks exhausting. And then, he lubes himself up and slides right down a storm drain.
It's like he knew he was going to do that. The only thing on his utility belt seemed to be two...
Maybe that's just his thing.
Squeeze tubes of lube. Yeah. KY man. Looked kind of like an alien, right? Silver, shiny costume with the big eyes, like the big goggles.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their
living in the sewer. Who are these?
Weird persona.
What is?
I don't know if he was living in the sewer. That was just his escape plan.
He frequents them, I'm sure.
It's hard for other people to get into the sewer.
So he was just watching her dispose of some evidence.
Yeah,
and that's all we saw.
Which is not good for Angela.
No, not good at all. Did he take... All he had was a notebook, maybe? He was just writing
I don't know
notes.
that he had much of anything. He was just watching.
Just that and his lube. Cool scene, though. I loved seeing him just slide down and disappear into the sewer.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was nuts. And then we see the next scene, she's at the police station getting greeted by Joe Keane.
Yeah.
Who sees her in full Sister Night gear.
And he kind of I feel like he almost intentionally sort of does the whole, Angela.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's not even hiding the fact that he's just a going to be a villain later.
Right? Yeah, at this point, it's apparent. Like, okay, he's got two of his goons right next to him.
Just laughing about some sort of a joke.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And then she goes to talk, she asks, who is it? Pirate Jenny and Red Scare about the utility belt. And they're like, well, the new boss isn't going to care about that.
Yeah,
and
unless...
turns out the new boss is none other
Laurie Blake.
Silk Spectre number 2.
I'm pretty sure she's going by Laurie Blake right now.
Well, I'm still going to call her what I'm going to call her. You think Petey calls her Laurie Blake?
She's been the comedian and now Laurie Blake after Silk Spectre. So too. She's probably retired.
At the Black Freighter Hotel Inn and Suites, what do you think Petey called her that night?
I think he just said thank you.
Fair. He was wearing that mask.
Probably because she told him to, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
How about, so then, yeah, we get that great interaction of Laurie and Angela, where Laurie starts talking about how they found fingerprints on the car, some belonging to
William Reeves,
who
was a cop in D.C., I think she said, in the 40s and 50s.
40s and 50s, yeah.
Who went off the grid and disappeared. But if he was around now, he'd be over 100 years old. And you know how 100-year-old people get around is in wheelchairs. So she's connecting dots.
Although we did see Will Reeves walk without a wheelchair, so...
Well, she's not 100%.
99.98%.
But she's connecting a lot of dots.
She is. She's good at connecting those dots. I guess that was the big thing. And then she gets the lead. She suspects, I guess, that the True Industries or True whatever, the company is behind it because they have...
Because they're magnetic hover drones.
Do you think when Laurie was in Judd's office, the first thing she did was throw away the Under the Hood book and the
place did look pretty cleared out.
Yeah, I noticed that.
She had definitely, or at least somebody had removed all his stuff.
She just puts blue dildos everywhere.
Andy Warhol paintings of herself.
Anything else we want to talk about with that scene?
I don't think so.
Yeah, just a great interaction.
Then we switched to them driving to True Industries with Petey sitting in the back.
I like that scene a lot.
Yeah. She tells Petey to tell Angela all about her trauma.
Yeah.
Breaks down the whole superhero thing where you wear a mask because you have trauma, because, your parents were shot in an alley or your planet exploded.
Talking about an origin story.
Or, whatever.
You're hiding your hurt, pain.
And so, Petey tells her that she's none other than the Silk Spectre, that her father was the comedian, her mom was the other Silk Spectre, that they were in the Minutemen. And then she's like a TV show, and he's like, well, that show's garbage.
Terrible. It's garbage. That's hilarious. Kind of interesting that Angela doesn't know much about the Minutemen. You'd think being a masked not a vigilante, I guess, masked cop.
Yeah.
She would have learned a little bit about the...
Well, maybe it's just like, at this point, that was in like the 40s and 50s. Maybe that's just like a historical whatever at this point, Like,
maybe.
Like, do you know about...
Costumed heroes, though? You'd think if you're going to be a costumed cop, you might know a little bit about
But costumed heroes are...
You got to at least do your research so you don't do the same thing someone else did,
You think somebody else might have dressed up as a nun?
A nun who beats the shit out of people? It's not that... It's much of a stretch.
So is her family killed by nuns? I love that.
That was great. Yeah, Laurie cracks me up. Her quick wit.
I can see why she goes by the comedian.
Used to. She should bring it back.
She should.
Yeah.
Wonder what her costume would be like.
I would imagine a lot like her dad's.
Which one? Because he had two, right? He had the old one that was like the
old
Joker,
one, which was and then the modified one, which was more like just body armor, right? The super soldier, kind of a Captain America.
Yeah, it was like a
vibe,
kind of a perverted Captain America, sadistic cap.
And then we get to True Industries. I don't know if that's what it's called, but I'm going to call it True Industries.
True Tech.
Their logo looks a lot like Tesla. I'm sure that's not entirely accidental.
It's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Cool. We see like somebody's like piloting one of those drones.
Yeah.
And she asks about it, what the range is, about 100 kilometers.
Which, by the way, looks and sounds a lot like the spacecraft that picked up the car in the first place.
And it has like the same kind of propellers and magnet things that we saw in that episode.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find that Will Reeves himself is at True Industries.
No way. Where would he be hiding?
Maybe a vivarium? I don't know.
What, do you think he just got up and walked in there?
By the way, is vivarium just like a common name where everybody knows what that means? Would you like to join me in the vivarium?
It's like a terrarium, or an aquarium. It's just a term that
they just say yes without really even knowing what it is. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
you don't want to be embarrassed.
Well, people might have a better idea what it is because Adrian Veidt was kind of famous for having one in Antarctica, right?
This is true. Yes. Adrian Veidt, I don't know if he had the first vivarium, but certainly the most renowned vivarium.
Yes. Best vivarium I've seen.
In my personal life, yes. Yeah.
So, what then? We meet Beyond, Lady True's daughter.
We've seen her before, but now we get a name and we get kind of some backstory.
Speaking of when we saw her before, I kind of missed those news guys. I was hoping they would.
I'm sure they're going to make an appearance again.
I hope so.
Oh, they have to.
You think that we're just going to see them like in the last episode when they get like vaporized by whatever Lady True's doing?
I think we're going to see
her Millennium
one other
Clock
time,
is going to do a thing.
Then I could totally see that. It is interesting that the vivarium is built to withstand a nuclear blast or anything but a direct nuclear blast.
Yeah, well, and the Millennium Clock itself too, because that was supposed to be the the first wonder of the world built to last.
The new world.
Yes, a new world order, just like Adrian was trying to create.
So we get to meet Lady True. I mean, we already kind of briefly met her, but now we get a little more of Lady True. She's an interesting character.
Indeed.
So trillionaire. She likes to brag about that.
She certainly does. She's got a thing for Adrian Veidt. She's got a golden statue of him.
How about that?
Yeah.
I like that Lori comments about how he looks old in that.
Uh-huh. I mean, Lori is not exactly a spring chicken.
No, she's not. But I guess what that implies is that True, I think, has a more intimate connection with Adrian in his older age.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas most people, would think that he's...
But if he disappeared around 2012, he still would have looked pretty old.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess the thing is she had him in his superhero costume, but with his older visage.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the part that was jarring because he probably didn't wear the costume too much in public.
Probably not a lot. Yeah.
I bet he wore it a lot in private.
Sure. It seems like he
still does.
Enjoys getting dressed up when he can. Mm-hmm. Any excuse to put on the old uniform.
Yeah. So, yes, she Lady True tells Angela in Vietnamese.
That was great.
Just hints to her about the pills. Like so Lady True is definitely like openly trying to tell Angela that this is a thing. Like you're kind of in this circle potentially. Mm-hmm. There's a trust here that she could potentially be in. Beyond. Yeah. So yeah, but Angela retorts also in Vietnamese that what he can tell her himself.
Yeah. I think there was an F-bomb probably in there. Knowing Angela
in an HBO show.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
So then what? Shortly after that, we transition to Adrian's scene.
Yeah, what was that transition?
It was the golden statue.
The golden statue of Adrian. And then going
I think it was anyway.
But then we cut to him at night in some body of water.
Lake, yeah.
Fishing for fetuses.
Doing something. He's pulling traps out of the lake.
Oh my gosh.
And in these traps are these human babies.
Yeah.
That he just kind of he inspects one, tosses it back in the water like it's a fish.
It's crazy. One of them kind of lets out a little cry.
Yeah.
And he just tosses it back in the water.
So weird. But hey, maybe that's how they make babies in the future.
Perhaps. A little less fun than the way we do it. Call me old fashioned.
Well, maybe it's sort of like fish, like the fish lays her eggs and the male swims in after and fertilizes them.
I stand by what I said. It's a little less fun.
You got to be creative, though. You can have fun with that.
Just put it in a microwave for 20 minutes. Not even 20 minutes.
Yeah, like a minute.
Was quick.
Yeah.
So then,
we see grown adult humans
fishing for fetuses. It looked like, I don't know what he was doing, looking for the right ones. He tossed a few back. Yeah. Either he was looking for a Crookshanks instead of a Phillips, Or he's just looking for the right Phillips. I don't know.
Or maybe he just pulled. Maybe some of them were just like not really
missing some of their fingers and toes.
Yeah, maybe they weren't alive or they weren't developed properly.
Maybe.
But yeah,
there's an art to it. You got to like squeeze them in the right place. Smell it, tap on them.
He didn't seem to be very careful about it.
No, he did not.
But yeah, he brings one of each, puts them in the oven, literally.
And plays some more of his reggae music.
His 4th anniversary cake.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I guess the cake's growing on him.
Yeah, or he just running out of options with all of his help staff being slaughtered. So all he has to eat is some leftover cake. But yeah, it was fast. Didn't even take like a minute to have them rotate in this little chamber.
And then after that, they start to learn language. They learn to understand him just without even being taught.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
We also find out that he is not responsible for creating them.
Yeah. I kind of had a feeling.
We got a feeling, but we got confirmation.
Yeah. I think this is Lady True's situation.
Certainly seems that way.
You think Lady True had her daughter pulled her out of a lake?
At this point, I'm thinking anything's possible.
Put her in an oven.
She's a very odd bird. Doesn't seem like the warmest character either. Jokingly talks about killing the kid if they didn't sign those papers immediately.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We'll find a nice home for him.
Well, she's got a lot in comment with Ozymandias a bit, I think.
Yeah. Just this ruthless business person.
But
yeah, interesting to hear that the clones are not clones, whatever we're calling them, were not created by Adrian. And that we get confirmation that he is basically in prison.
Yes.
When he first started living here, he thought it was a paradise, but now he considers it a prison.
We also get confirmation that his anniversaries are yearly.
Yep.
That he's been there for 4 years now.
I like when he says happy birthday to the new Crookshanks and Phillips, similar to how they always say happy anniversary. Right?
Yeah.
And Ozzy's looking a little more disheveled than he normally looks. He's usually pretty well put together.
Yeah.
His hair's a little rough looking. He looks a little...
He had a rough night.
We cut back to his estate, his manor.
Yeah.
And we just see
his banquet hall is littered with servants.
Corpses just slaughtered. And he picks up the horseshoe and he says something like, not yet.
Yeah.
Or not.
I didn't need it
yet. Which, to me, I got the impression that he just went off the handle and Ozzy killed all of them himself.
I mean, you get bored eating the same cake every year,
and the life is meaningless. He admits that their lives are meaningless. You can just pull him out of the lake.
Yeah,
so he doesn't care.
What does he say? He's says something to the effect that like he wouldn't have burdened them with the gift of life because they have no purpose,
right? Yeah, except
to serve.
Yeah,
definitely. It kind of makes it a lot more understandable how he could just like light them on fire or have them test a spacesuit and freeze to death.
I mean, I guess we're to assume that this is like an unlimited supply of.
Seems that way.
Servants, yeah.
They'll just keep growing in that lake or whatever.
Just keep fishing from the well. Just go down there.
So then we see him. He's actually
catapulting,
launching them.
We see the catapult.
Launching the corpses in the catapult through an invisible barrier in the sky.
Kind of a theory we had, but now we get kind of confirmation that
he's in some kind of a dome.
And then just once you reach a certain point in the dome, you escape it. And we are to assume that on the outside of the dome,
you freeze to death.
Is going to be the cold nothingness of space or
Mars.
Mars, yeah. So not really sure what his plan is once he goes into that realm. Sure, he's got a suit that maybe he can survive.
He did mention using their corpses to escape, similar to the Black Freighter idea, like making a raft out of corpses to
very interesting
to escape the sea.
Well, if anybody can escape, the smartest man in the world certainly can.
What does the game warden think of all this?
Is the game warden even alive still?
Maybe not. Maybe he killed him.
We don't know what happened after
on
he hunted
midnight on his 3rd anniversary.
A lot has changed in a year.
With his superhero costume.
So we get a couple answers, but are left with many more questions.
Many questions.
I think those are the bullet points of the Adrian scenes.
Yeah.
And then where do we go after that? We cut back to Lady True's house, the vivarium again. We see Bond.
Yeah, we see Beyond wake up from a nightmare and pull an IV out of her arm. She's getting intravenous fluids or something.
Very bizarre.
I guess every night as she sleeps. So, like, you think we know there are psychics in this world. You think Beyond might be a psychic that Lady True is like cultivating for, useful information, like the exact time when something might fall out of the sky and where?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, between the fact that psychics do exist in this world, based on the graphic novel, we've already had some psychics. Then yeah, she talks about how her feet still hurt from the dream. So the dream was so real that she's actually feeling physical
What was
discomfort.
the dream?
Something about someone attacks her village and she had to walk all night or something and her feet still hurt.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Makes you wonder if it's a dream or an actual memory from Lady True.
Or a premonition.
Sounded like she was in Vietnam in the dream, though. Didn't she say that? Or
She might go back.
Yeah, maybe. A lot of questions there.
Maybe the village was symbolic, like the village of Tulsa.
But then, yeah, and then we got her mother, who's just the warmest, nurturing mother one can imagine. Asks if she could walk her back to her room, and she just says,
No, my love.
No, my love. Okay. And then we get to see a familiar character.
She says goodnight to Mr. Reeves.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Who seems a little sharper than I remember him.
Yeah, and a little more spry.
Walking around on his own 2 feet.
Yep. So he's got something going on. They talk about the pills a little bit. Like Lady True mentions how the pills are kind of a passive aggressive hint toward Angela that he should just tell her something. But he says that Angela needs to see it for herself. So I'm wondering if the pills like induce like some psychic vision or something. Like maybe if she takes one, she'll like see or experience something crazy. Because I think he mentions like she needs to experience it for herself, right? Something like that.
He did say something like that.
And then they say that there's 3 days till something happens. And they look up at the clock together. And then Angela's going to hate Will.
Yeah.
And that's why Lady True can trust him to be all in, because he's going to be alienated by his family anyway.
Lots to unpack there.
It's a big episode, folks.
No doubt. I can't wait to watch it again. And
we will definitely be back later this week with a more coherent or less coherent, who knows, episode.
Mid-coherent.
Middling coherence.
Yeah, that was pretty much it for this episode. I'm left wanting more, as always.
Yeah.
Also, recently the soundtrack to Watchmen has been released. Have you heard it at all? Have you listened?
I've heard it from watching the show.
I've heard it.
I heard this episode end with "Time Is on My Side."
So I've been listening to it a lot. Great album. The titles of the songs are pretty entertaining.
Oh, yeah?
So one of them is actually called Orphans of Krypton.
Oh, nice.
Another one is called None with a Motherfucking Gun.
She doesn't use a gun, though, does she?
Not that we've seen yet, but I guess maybe at some point.
Yeah.
Another one is Objects in Mirror Are Closer Than They Appear. That's the Looking Glass theme.
Yeah, I like it.
What other ones? The Brick. That's the
Laurie Blake's theme, yeah.
There's a Muller Time.
Time.
Owl Hunts Rat.
Ooh. Maybe we haven't heard that one yet.
Watch Over This Boy. Just good songs. If you haven't checked it out, I suggest checking it out. Great soundtrack. I think that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are killing it.
Nice.
What else? I guess that's really about it. So we're going to dive in. I can't wait to watch it again. Come up with some more coherent theories.
We'll ruminate on it a bit.
Do a little more research. Jimmy's going to read the graphic novel again.
Come up with some memes.
Probably. We do like to do that here and there.
And we will hit you hard with, what's the episode called? If you don't like my story.
If you don't like my story, write your own. And that's how they ended it. So this is another episode of Watching Watchmen. Thank you for joining us. Just a Sip. You can find us on social media. We're at HBO Watchmen on Twitter. We're at Watchmen Pod on Instagram. And Website is theonedrinkin.com.
theonedrinkin.com.
If you like this show, the best way you can support us is to just leave us some positive feedback on whatever platform you listen to podcasts.
Give us a like, give us a review, download our episodes, listen to us on the job or at the gym or in your basement hovel, your bunker, your vivarium if you have one.
Yeah, the vivarium I highly recommend. Combination of our podcast and the soundtrack to Watchmen, I think would be ideal. That's it, everybody. Thank you very much for listening and have a great night.